860. 860, Shift Commander has requested your unit respond to accident scene, take command of rescue and clearing problem. QSL 860, wreckers, crane, and other emergency vehicles are en route. All units, South District 1240 has intercepted wanted 68 Chevy at Southwest 112th Street and 3rd Avenue.
A criminal act carries with it the burden of the pursued. Guilt wears its own look and cannot help itself in looking back. Distant sirens suggest the truth. And once the run begins, the rabbit is in the row. It is one of the most lonely moments man is cursed to understand. With each step, the man eliminates his choices, cancels his alternatives, until at last his possibilities close upon him and he's up against the end. Two final forces meet at this moment. It is the most dangerous instant in police work. You are under arrest. And those are the most unequivocal words you will ever say. You are under arrest.
Hold it right there, don't move, you're under arrest. God, thanks.
This is the toughest moment of police function. The most dangerous. You are under arrest. At this dead end, free choice is a tiny hole in an absolute conclusion.
You're under arrest. Put your hands up in plain sight.
Come on, you're under arrest.
Willie Harrison, I have a warrant for your arrest.
Oh, what's the problem?
You're under arrest. I want your hands in plain sight and step out of the car very slow.
No arrest is exactly like other arrests. Each is different. There is no prescribed set of rules to cover every contingency. The long arm of the law is a truth. The law reaches out to express a responsibility. The people it touches are all different. Some will react in fear or panic, some in hatred and anger. But to the law and to the police officer who enforces it, it is a professional act rendered in behalf of the people it serves and protects. This is the second of highest danger when the hand of the law touches the heart of the matter.
Hold it, son. You're under arrest. God damn.
An arrest is the taking, seizing, or detaining of the person of another, either by touching or laying hands upon him, or by any action which would indicate an intention to take him into custody. And subjects the person arrested to the action, control, and will of the person making the arrest.
Murray, will you be able to post a $1,500 bond?
No, sir.
Well, I'm afraid you're going to have to stay with this until the 25th for court time.
As used in criminal law, arrest signifies the apprehension or detention of the person of another in order that he may be forthcoming to answer an alleged or supposed crime. Any person who commits a crime may be arrested unless by statute or diplomatic status is privileged therefrom. An arrest is very serious business all around. It is not a personal process between you and someone else. It is an act which the officer performs in a carefully planned execution of the law he represents. There is a mechanical, almost totally professional mannerism which you must learn if you're to honestly represent the law, if you are to contribute to a well-made case, and if you are to protect yourself from serious physical harm.
We're not allowed to have any money back there. Put him in 13 and give him number 725468.
While no arrest is the same, the conclusion of every good arrest has but one sound in the ear of the person you apprehend.
Lean back, look straight ahead.
A bad arrest rings in the ears of those you protect and reflects upon the community you serve. Every arresting officer must identify himself as a policeman, even though the uniform speaks for itself.
Up against the wall. Spread them out. Get them back, all the way.
Even though every arrest presents special problems, there are some basic rules of conduct which make it easier in most situations. Be forceful and aggressive, not reticent or apologetic. Dominate the situation. Show who is in charge. Speak in a clear and decisive voice. Demand prompt and absolute obedience. Control any sign of nervousness or excitement. Avoid the use of profanity as it reflects a personal weakness. Be natural and businesslike. Avoid acting tough or cocky. Avoid unnecessary conversation. Do not discuss the charge against the subject. Avoid unnecessary physical contact. And be alert. You're depriving someone of his freedom. He can't be expected to like you. You've caught him and pulled him up short.
These officers are en route to make an arrest under warrant. Generally speaking, a warrant of arrest is a legal process issued by competent authority directing the arrest of a designated person or persons upon grounds stated therein. In most jurisdictions, the arresting officer should have the warrant in his possession at the time of the arrest. In others, he may be permitted to show the warrant as soon as possible following the arrest. In all instances, the officer, whether arresting under a warrant or not, must inform the subject that a warrant has been issued and state the cause of the arrest. Every arrest should be carefully planned, and the plan should be executed as simply as possible with deliberate speed. Flexibility is mandatory. As a rule, 2 officers should effect the arrest of 1 person.
Hey, friend. I'm Officer Skilling. This is Officer Fine.
So what?
I got a warrant here for a dude by the name of William Walker. I think he's in 212.
What do you want me to do?
Passkey. Thanks.
In public buildings, hotels, terminals, and business establishments, where possible, the management should be informed of your action, and their support should be enlisted. There are fundamentals which apply to every arrest situation. The first is simplicity. The plan of arrest should be as simple as possible so that each officer knows precisely what he is to do. Speed. Each officer should be able to move in any direction toward the accomplishment of the arrest at any given moment. Surprise. Early morning is usually the best time to make an arrest of this nature. The object, regardless of the time of day, is to surprise the subject, thereby taking him off guard and under control before he's able to collect himself or plan an escape. Superiority. In manpower and firepower, superiority is the best protection. Most subjects will submit peacefully when confronted with obvious superiority. Safety. Every arrest is dangerous. There are hazards to bystanders and to the subject himself. Most often, the hazard is to the arresting officers. This is the moment of instantaneous decision, when information and circumstance come together in the final act. Taking advantage of cover, the officers have several choices: to attempt to get the subject to open the door, to use the passkey, or to forcibly enter the room.
When an officer has the right to make an arrest, he may use whatever force is necessary to apprehend the offender and effect the arrest. If the offender offers no resistance, the use of any force is illegal.
Police officers!
Hey, call it! Wayne Walker, got a warrant here for your arrest, charging you with armed robbery. Stand up. Face that wall real slow.
When force is used to gain entry, the officer should carefully record in his report the circumstances leading to his decision. The officer is treading upon the possibility that an otherwise valid arrest could be made illegal by his actions, and he could face civil or criminal charges as a result. The use of restraining devices should be governed by the officer's judgment at the time, the subject's reputation for violence, known criminal record, and the stature of the subject physically. Any doubt should be resolved in favor of applying restraint.
I don't know anything about any robberies. I don't know what you guys are doing here. Man, I got rights.
You got a right to know that I'm a police officer and that I've got a warrant for your arrest. And Mr. Walker, I'm going to advise you of your constitutional rights. You have a constitutional right to remain silent. You need not make any statements if you do not wish to do so. Should you talk to me, any statement you may make can and will...
In the Miranda decision, the United States Supreme Court held that certain safeguards were necessary to protect the subject from self-incrimination. The Fifth Amendment to the Constitution provides that no person shall be compelled in a criminal case to be a witness against himself. Although it is not ordinarily the arresting officer's responsibility, or does he have general cause to conduct such interrogation, he must abide by the Miranda rules before asking any questions of the subject. Otherwise, he will risk an illegal arrest. The basic rule regarding search is that search requires a search warrant. The most important exception to that rule is evident in this situation. This is a search incident to arrest. The courts hold that an arresting officer has the right, without a search warrant, and without regard to whether or not a warrant was issued permitting the arrest, to search the subject and the things under his immediate control. There must be a lawful arrest. The arrest must precede the search. The search must be of the person and of the area immediately surrounding him, of which he could be said to exercise control. This is a mistake, which could jeopardize an otherwise legal arrest. Without a search warrant, the limitations of the search are clear. Closed drawers are clearly illegal. Generally speaking, a peace officer may arrest without warrant one who commits a felony or a misdemeanor in his presence. An officer may also arrest without a warrant when a felony has been committed, or he has reasonable grounds to believe that the person has committed a felony. A mere general suspicion is not enough to justify an arrest without warrant. Probable cause to arrest exists where the facts and surrounding circumstances of which the arresting officer has reasonably trustworthy information would justify a man of reasonable caution in believing that an offense has been committed and that the person to be arrested has committed it. The officer's judgment regarding the usefulness of these tools is considered expert opinion and justify the arrest in this situation.
You're under arrest for possession of burglary tools.
In stopping this car, removing the passengers, and conducting a frisk of suspicious persons on the basis of reasonable belief that they might be concealing weapons which could be used against the officers, a legal stop and frisk situation was created in most jurisdictions. However, the frisk power is not the power to search. Although the law permits a police officer to make an arrest without a warrant where a crime is committed in his presence, an officer is not authorized to stop anyone on a public highway who is lawfully using that highway and take him into custody on the bare suspicion that he is violating the law. The courts have held, however, that examining objects carried on the street or in plain sight within a car is not a search. Observing the burglary tools in plain sight after having stopped the vehicle for reasonable cause and effecting an arrest based upon the possession of the tools is a legal arrest situation. The Fourth Amendment of the Constitution protects against unreasonable search and seizure, but the courts provided for certain relaxations of the law with regard to the search of motor vehicles.
Hey, Andy.
Yeah, Doc.
I think we hit the jackpot.
The movable vehicle exception permits the emergency search of an automobile when there is a possibility that its removal will result in the loss of evidence in a criminal matter. If the officer had probable cause to believe a search was required, he could have conducted such a search of this car without a warrant. The mistake in this situation is in the handcuffing. If in the judgment of the arresting officer, handcuffs are to be applied, they should be placed behind the subject's back and through his belt with thumbs up. Or the prisoner can be transported by handcuffing the subject with his arms placed beneath his legs and then securing the seatbelt in this manner. The subject should never be handcuffed to a stationary object, never to a solid object within a patrol car.
You're under arrest for public drunk.
Ah, screw you, fuck that!
Hey, big,
The arrest of a female subject can be one of the most difficult and demanding arrests made by the police officer. Treat a woman as a lady so long as she acts as one. Transport should be made by two officers. A plan is essential and should be followed with dispatch and aggressively controlled moves so that it is quick and precise. An officer attempting an arrest in the manner seen would have abandoned two of the principles of a successful arrest. Simplicity, speed, and surprise were present, but superiority and safety were ignored, and a simple arrest procedure has escalated to a shooting situation and a possible knifing. The officer has no choice at this moment. He has shot at an unarmed man fleeing. Legally, in most jurisdictions, the officer would be justified in shooting. But to counter that legality is the matter of public opinion, the possible racial clamor such an incident could provoke. Through poor planning, the officer has compounded the difficulties of the Arrest Act, putting himself and his department in an unnecessary and disadvantageous public position and endangered his own life. One of the most common arrest judgment situations occurs in routine traffic patrol. These routine situations always present the officer with dangerous possibilities. The person stopped may be wanted on charges unknown to the officer. He may be armed, intoxicated, or under the influence of narcotics. The officer should be very attentive to the movements of the subject and should approach the situation with extreme care.
Good afternoon, I'm Officer Skilling. May I please see your driver's license?
Yes, sir.
Just the license, please.
What's wrong, officer? What did I do?
Mr. Siegel, you ran a red light.
I could swear the light was yellow when I went through it. And I saw you, and I just figured I'd had it. My kid is very sick. They called me from work to come home. I've got to take...
The personal judgment of the officer is the only element in the arrest situation which acts to temper justice. As a police officer, you will hear every possible excuse for human behavior. To believe or not to believe is a matter of personal judgment. There will be stories which should be believed, and people who should be permitted to continue upon their way without arrest or citation. The compassion and the objectivity of the officer must unite, and the judgments, as personal as they may be, must be justified in fairness with reference to the public good.
Mr. Siegel, this one's on me. You can consider it a warning.
Thank you very much, officer.
You're welcome.
This is an example of the well-planned arrest, employing the fundamentals of the successful arrest: simplicity, speed, surprise, superiority, and safety. During the active arrest phase, this planning will pay off in a disciplined, efficient procedure. One officer will give all the commands. Officers receiving these orders will respond with orderliness. Two of the officers will act as covering parties. Crossfire will be prevented, and the collection, preservation, and identification of legally seized evidence will be accomplished and the chain of evidence established.
Under arrest, everybody freeze! You four in the bed, don't move, don't even quiver. Officer Loomis, take the four on the floor.
Up against the wall. You too, sister. Let's go. Over.
The danger of the arrest situation is always present. Planning and procedure reduce the dangers. Correct legal procedure is a must.
Doc, roll those two out.
No arrest should be made without a thorough understanding of the legalities of search and seizure, and without a clear appreciation of the subject's rights. Each arrest situation presents its own difficulty. The officer's duty requires that he protect the rights of the accused, as well as the safety of all persons, including himself. This is no place for the prejudiced, the insensitive, or the afraid. This is the most dangerous of all police functions. It demands intelligence and discipline. At this moment in time, the choices come down to that narrow conclusion of violence.
Freeze!
The man could have submitted peacefully, attempted suicide, waited for the help of Confederates, decided to flee, or do as he did, attempt to kill you. Every arrest situation carries its own conclusion, its own danger.
673 emergency.
673.
Suspect in this 26 has been shot. Send me Eastern and the squad. Also notify the duty captain in homicide.
QSL 673.
When the hand of the law touches the heart of the matter, anything can happen. At best, this youth can be stopped and turned around and given a new reason to respect society and its laws. At worst, a police officer can fail to protect the people he represents and fail himself as a professional officer of the law. Arrest is at once the end and the beginning. How well it is accomplished, how honestly, legally, and humanely it is done, is the test of the professional. You are under arrest.